started. I got to see who accepts
That
the
had to be
stream
funny.
now, okay?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that.
Can you hear him?
Yes.
I can't hear him.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you outside the microphone, but I can't hear you in my ear.
I don't know what to say about that, because you can hear me, right, Frank?
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't.
okay. Turn your volume up louder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can you hear me? 1.
It's yellow, right? I'm yellow.
No, you're not yellow.
What
Oh,
am I?
she B?
She's B.
Okay.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
thank you, B.
Okay.
B stands for black, but if I put a piece of black tape on the headphones, you wouldn't be able to see it. So we had to do a workaround.
I love it.
Okay, so let's see here. Okay, Facebook has accepted the stream. YouTube has accepted the stream. Twitch has accepted the stream. Now you want me to send you the link, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Text it to me, would you?
Sure. Now, Frank, do you want the ability to, where you're going to see the comments, do you want to just respond to them on the air verbally, or do you want to actually type it out to them?
I'll respond verbally to
Okay,
them.
cool.
That'll
Then-
make it easier for everybody, right?
Yes,
So,
indeed.
okay.
Okay, that's good. That's what most people do, by the way.
Okay.
All right, here is the link. Copy a link. Text it to Terry. Okay, it should pop up on your phone text messages.
Okay, thank you.
Frank, do you also need this information?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you need it now, or can I?
Whatever's easier for you. You want to send it to me later? That's fine.
Sure, I'll send it to you now.
Okay.
And your favorite way of getting information is
Text.
it text message?
Yeah.
Okay. Here it is. Eight. Okay, Frank, you should have just got the text message.
I just got it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, when you two are all shared up, we can go on the air.
Richard, are you going to use the overhead camera to show the...
I'll have to, let me set it up for you.
Okay.
Oh, Richard, what's the name of the show again? I'm going to write it down.
Talk about everything with Terry.
Okay.
You remind me of myself. I would have asked a question like that.
Richard, I've decided,
Yeah.
looking at myself in the camera here, I have no good side. So,
Stop. You got many good sides.
We brought a special guest along with to us today, Terry.
Okay, now I'm going to teach you how to use the overhead camera, okay, Frank?
Okay.
Okay.
I just got the text message.
Okay, now there should be a remote control somewhere on that little table or next to the table.
Like a joystick? This
No,
thing here?
no, it's like a little tiny box, like the size of a credit card. It's got buttons on it.
This?
That's it.
Okay.
You point that. You see the rocker switch underneath the red button?
Yes.
Point that at the ceiling, and it allows you to zoom in or zoom out. There you go. See? So if you have something small, you zoom
Okay.
in, and if you have something big, you zoom out, okay?
Okay. Let me get these out of the way.
Okay, now I got to put a button in there for you. Let's see here.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Okay, I sent out my links.
Okay, now Frank, you
Yes.
see that little button box in front of you that has main and VIN
Stream?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I want you to play with that a little bit. Hit main. So you see what that does.
Okay.
And then if you need overhead, you hit VIN 5. And you see what that does.
Okay.
You see fade to black at the end of the show. So you can ignore that VIN 9. But you see the number 5?
Yes.
That's the show timer.
Okay.
Okay, so you now as I say in the Navy, you have the con.
Okay.
So when you're ready and Terry's ready, you can press the VIN 5 button.
Okay.
But the only thing that you got to watch out for, Frank, is that remote control you have for zooming in and zooming out. If you do not point it directly overhead, look at Terry's image. You zoomed out on Terry.
Okay.
So point it at Terry's camera. Now hers is over your shoulder. Lower. Right there, above the monitor. No, lower, lower, lower. Here, Frank.
Over
look,
here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Get her in the frame.
Okay.
Oh, now it's affecting your camera. I guess it doesn't work. Okay, that's good. I'm going to go do it manually.
Okay.
All right, so we are learning about the technology as we go forward.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's better.
There we go. Okay. Okay, now you ready to start the show?
I'm ready.
Are you ready, Frank?
Yes, I am.
When you're ready, you hit the 5 button. And when it says on the air, you're on the air.
You ready, Terry?
I'm ready. Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Licata Bronstein, and welcome to the show, Talk About Everything with Terry. First of all, I want to say I hope you had a wonderful holiday, Christmas, and
Wait,
all the fun things that go with Christmas.
Let me fix. People were messing with this. Look at that. They turned the whole thing around.
Who was messing with it?
Somebody was messing with this. There you go.
Did they hear me, or should I can stop and start again?
You can start again if you want.
Okay.
Go ahead, start again.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Talk About Everything with Terry. And I'm delighted to be here, and I'm happy to be here. And I first of all want to say I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. Christmas, you got everything you wanted. New Year's, all your wishes came through. And I just want to say I had a wonderful holiday. I had a beautiful dinner at my son's house, and all of his friends and all our family were there. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to bring back a wonderful author, creator, writer, Frank Marecello. He was on the show last time that we were together, and we talked about his book that he wrote, Dress, Jeans, Disco, and Dating, which he is now turning into a film. And he started it, and we talked about it last time. We talked about what he's done so far with it and where he was going with it. And now this is a continuation of what we talked about last time, and he's going to talk to you and tell you a little bit about where he is at this point. This is our second podcast together. And Frank, let me ask you, could you briefly review the steps you took to both write the book and the steps you took to publish it?
Sure. I began writing the book, it's about 10 years ago now. I had an idea about I wanted to talk about people that had affected me and helped me out and kind of molded me into who I am now. And it was a real, I wanted to use real characters, so I decided I was going to write about my family and my friends, and I started slowly writing the book and piecing it together. I had never written a book before, so I didn't know. I guess there are no rules about writing a book, and whatever works best for you is what you do. And I just started writing down little stories from my childhood and when I was in high school and into college, and I just started, as I said, like writing actually chapters of the book was going, and I just kept piecing it together until finally to emerge, and I kept it to myself as I was writing. Again, I didn't know if it was really going to turn into a book or whether I was just going to be kind of memories of my own that I would keep. But all of a sudden, I realized that it was turning into a book, and it was time, and I wanted to publish it. So at that point, I had to start to arrange everything because I just had little stories, like 30 different stories, all in no order or anything, and I put them all together, and it became the book. And it's really a story about family and love for your family and love for your friends, and I was very happy with it when I finally completed the book, and I thought, okay, now it's ready to publish. I gave it to a girl that I worked with who was considerably younger than me. She was in her mid-20s, and I asked her, I said, would you read this story? I didn't even call it a book. I said a story. Would you read the story I wrote? And she read it, and she said, I love it. It's great. Who's this Nick kid? And I said, well, Nick's me. But she kind of figured it out anyway.
Okay.
But so she asked me if she could give it to her mother to read, who was my age. So I said, sure. So she gave it to her mom, and her mom read it and immediately contacted me, and she said, this is really good. You should publish it. So then I didn't know what to do. I said, okay, now I've written a book. Okay, where do you find someone to publish it? So a friend of mine recommended a publisher in New York, and I said, okay. So I contacted this guy. His name was Matt, and I sent the book to him, and he said, you'll hear from me in a few months. And I pictured this dirty office in New York City with books piled all over the place, and that I was probably never going to hear from the guy. But I sent it to him anyway, and within 2 days, he called me back, and he said, I really like your story. Have you written any other books? And I said, no. And he said, let me get you to my legal department, and we'd like to, to get involved in publishing the book. And I said, okay, great.
Sure.
So within a few days, I was contacted by a lawyer, and the lawyer stuff started. They helped me get it copyrighted. That was very important to get that done before they would get involved in it. So I copyrighted the book, and then I was on a Zoom call with multiple attorneys, and they went through the book line by line and asked me, is this a real person? Is this a real place? And I had, I responded to all the questions, and that's when the process of changing names of things had to happen because of the fear of getting sued. So we went, I told them there were a bunch of places that I talked about, Casa de Pizza, Elmwood Taco, and I said, I really want to keep the names of these two businesses in the story. So they gave me contracts, and I went and talked with them, and they were more than willing to let me use their names. So I gave them the sections of the book where their restaurants were mentioned, and they were like, it's great, you talked about it. No, we have no problem with that. So we got them a contract, and they agreed to let us use their names. Unfortunately, everyone else, if they were still alive, I had to change their names. So I changed a lot of people's names. A bunch of people that had already passed away. I learned that a dead person can't sue you, so we used their names if they had already passed away. So, and then I had to hire my own lawyer, who then went through the book, and she told me what things she wanted changed to protect me personally. And then the book was published. That was in the end of May of 2019, and within a few weeks, the book exploded all over the internet and all over actually the country, and it started selling very well. And in the month of July, I made the New York Times bestseller list for 3 weeks. And
how exciting!
Yeah, after that happened, I did a book signing at a restaurant called The Garage on Hurdle Avenue, and over 350 people showed up with the books, wanted me to sign it, and it was just from there it snowballed into what it is today. So it's done very well. A lot of people have reviewed it on Amazon. It's got great reviews on Amazon, over 50 written reviews, and I I was overwhelmed with how well it turned out. So
Well, since these are all memories about what's going to be in your life, the rest of your life, tell us a little bit about the fact that you have favorite memories of the 70s. What were some of your favorite memories of the 70s?
well, I guess my favorite memory or favorite place of the 70s was Crystal Beach.
Oh, me too.
So I probably everybody in our age group, that would be the place they'd say. It just was a magical place, and I wrote about it in the book, and I tried to describe it, but I don't even think you can put words into how cool that place was, and the sounds and the smell and the neon that was everywhere at night, and the sandflies and everything, the smell of the cinnamon suckers when you everywhere you were, you smelled them. And it just was, that was an amazing place. I went with my wife. We had just gotten married in 1989. It closed in 1989, and I remember we went, the last day was Memorial Day, and we went the Sunday before Memorial Day and just walked around and tried to soak it all in one last time. And there were older people walking around, crying and saying, I met my husband here, I met my wife here, and I want to look in the ballroom one more time. The ballroom, eventually they turned into a roller skating rink. Or I want to ride the Comet one last time, or go on the yellow roller coaster or the Wild Mouse. And that to me was the most magical place as a kid. That just, you'll never be able to duplicate that again.
Do you remember the Fun House?
Oh yeah, getting squirted with the air when you were walking up, and that was an amazing, just an amazing place. So
I seem to remember the floor of the roller skating, the rink was wooden,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yeah.
If I remember right.
yeah.
And I remember those days. I still want to go back there and take a look at the area now that it's not there anymore.
It's condos now, and just there's nothing
That's what I
nothing
heard.
left left of Crystal Beach. That's very sad. So
But as a child, you've gone to many places and experienced a lot of exciting times. What do you miss the most? Like, what if you had to say one thing you miss the most?
I miss our neighborhoods that we had growing up, and I lived on Bird Avenue right by Richmond, and I knew every person that lived in every house from Bird and Richmond all the way to Bird and Baines, and it just was a different feeling. Like I've lived on my street for 35 years, and I don't know the names of the people 3 houses down from me. It's just not the same world anymore. Quite frankly, it's not. It was a much better world back then in the 70s, and I think I captured that in the book, and that's why so many people identified with this. When you talked about, you knew everybody down your block, and if you were doing something wrong, your friends' parents were your parents, and people you didn't know down the street were your parents too. Mm-hmm. They'd all kick your butt if that's what you needed, and that it's just a different world. I wish my kids they didn't get to experience it. My grandkids will never get to experience what we did. Terry and I grew up in the same neighborhood right down the street from each other. We didn't know each other, but so she knows all the places I talked about in the book, and she realizes, how it's just a feeling, a great feeling to go back and think about going to your grandmother's house again. How many people contacted me? I got emails, I got letters in the mail saying, when you talked about going to your grandmother's house.
It's a big deal years ago.
Right. You go to Grandma's house on Sunday, and if you were Italian, you went for sauce, and Grandma's making sauce, and your whole family was there every Sunday, which nobody's doing that anymore. I mean, it's so sad. And, those houses that your grandma grew up in were like magical places to go and, play with your cousins and just I wish we could all go back.
And they all had magical rooms we would play in as
Right.
children.
Right.
And do you remember the time when we had porches and we put the black and white TV out on the porch?
Oh,
And
yeah.
we'd watch TV. This neighbor would be watching this program. You'd be watching. Everybody'd have their TV out.
Right, because no one had air conditioning, and you just
Remember
go out on
that?
the porch in
Oh,
the summer.
my goodness.
Absolutely, the little, transistor televisions. Yeah.
So tell me, have you written any other books, or is this just your main focus right now?
It's my main focus right now, but I have written a couple other books. They're not completely done yet, but I wrote a story about my mother and my two aunts trying to meet Frank Sinatra in Buffalo in the 1960s. About, he's here. It's a very funny story. And the ending is very good. I'm not going to give it away yet.
Please, no, don't. You're gonna
but
be a surprise.
I don't know if people remember this, but there was a little bar on Porter Avenue right across from Front Park. It was called the Tender Trap. The Tender Trap was a Frank Sinatra movie. And when you went into the Tender Trap, the whole bar was filled with pictures of Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
And the jukebox only had Frank Sinatra songs in it, and it was a very interesting place, to say the least. I love that place. That's what actually gave me the idea of writing this story with my mother and my two aunts, because Frank Sinatra was a god to them, and how they just loved him and they wanted to meet him so bad. And I'm not going to say if in the story they do or not, because you'll have to read the story when it comes out.
Okay, is that building still there, the Tender Trap building?
No, it's been knocked down.
Oh.
Yeah, it was probably knocked down about 30 years ago. But it was just a cool place. I mean, places like that just don't exist anymore.
No.
No. And yeah, that was an amazing place. And I wrote another story about a soldier in World War I.
Okay.
And it's about a German soldier and an American soldier who meet each other in a foxhole and decide that it's not worth it to kill each other. And
wow.
It's a very touching story. And eventually the German soldier comes to Buffalo looking for the guy that he met in the foxhole, and it's a very touching story. I've read a lot of books about World War I and what the soldiers went through. Is a horrible, with people gassing each other and killing each other and fighting over 10 feet of land for 6 months. And it was just a horrible story. I wanted to try to make some little sense of humanity that maybe could have come out of there in my mind. So I wrote that book also. So,
have you written the screenplay for the book yet?
For Dress Jeans,
Yes.
Disco and Dating? Yes, I have. A lot of people, as they contacted me, were saying, I could picture everything you were talking about. This story should be a book. It should, or your book should be a movie, excuse me. So I had no experience in writing a screenplay. And I just said, I'm just going to sit down and write the book as a movie with more dialogue and a kind of a narrator to narrate the story. And that was very difficult to write. It's very difficult to write a screenplay. But I was able to complete it after about a year it took me of writing it. And I've handed it out to a few people, and the feedback has been very positive and very good. So,
well, this is something most people don't know: is how does it differ writing a book than writing the screenplay? How does it differ?
well, when you're writing a book, you have to paint a picture,
Okay.
and you have to let. When my when I was always writing as a kid, my father was always telling me you have to paint a picture, and your a book allows you to use your imagination. So the author paints a picture, and then you add color to it with your imagination, and that's how I wrote the book. And the people that read the book all said your descriptions of people made them come alive in my mind. And then they would say, well, that reminded me of my uncle or my aunt or my grandma, or your dad was like my dad. And that's the ultimate compliment if you wrote a story that someone reads it and they say, that person reminds me of someone that was in their lives too. So, writing a screenplay, the camera tells the picture. And as I was writing the screenplay, I was writing where the camera angles were, because in my mind I could see every scene laid out, and it was because everything in my book actually happened. So I've got a memory of that in my head, and I can see how a camera, what camera angles and up, down, far shot, close up, everything, because in my mind, as I was writing the book, I was also making a movie in my mind, and it worked out. Actually, a bunch of people that have read the screenplay said, "Oh, I love the screenplay even better than the book. It's great. You've got to do something with it." So that's how you and I met.
Right. That's right. Well, on stage and film, we have items that are called props. Well, tonight you brought some props with you.
Right.
And I'm interested to see what you have to say about them.
Sure. Okay. Well, I thought about. I love all these transistor radios from the 70s. We talked about some fun things last time we were on, so I thought I would bring some portable radios that we brought, that we used as a kid. So this radio here is a Panasonic, and it's called a Panapit. And the way you use this, so as you can see here, here's the tuner. So you turn the radio on, and then you would put it around your wrist like this and walk around the neighborhood with your transistor radio on your wrist. So let me see here if I can show it again. So here it's on your wrist like that. You walk around the neighborhood, and there's your one type of transistor radio.
Interesting.
This is another one. This is called a bracelet radio. And you kind of squeeze your hand through here, and you turn the radio on. And again, you walk around the neighborhood with your friends. There's the tuners, the on and off switch. This is called a Precourt. This is actually pretty rare, this one. I found it at a flea market, and I just had to buy it. So that's an amazing little portable radio also. This one, these are more common. These came in 5 different colors. This is called a Panapit. So it's kind of like a little orb. And as you can see up here, there are, this is how you tune it and turn it on. And then this hooks onto your belt loop, and it hangs off your belt loop as you're walking around. So it just kind of hangs there like that.
Goodness.
And you were the cool guy in the neighborhood if you had one of these. So again, this is a Panasonic Panapit. And last but not least, this is a Panasonic. This is called a TNT 8-track player. The 8-track slides in the side. It's totally portable, and it took like 6 batteries in the back. So you put the 8-track in the side here, and then if you want to change the tracks, this one's laying upside down, so I can't. But that's how you did it, and then you walked around the neighborhood again, holding on to it like this. And I remember one boy in my neighborhood. He had some kind of an elastic rubber band around here, and he tied it to the bar on his bike, and this, as we rode our bikes around the neighborhood, this was hanging off his bike, and this was our music that we listened to. So, yeah, that was. So these are just four fun little radios that I thought you might want to take a look at that would probably be interesting to some people who have never seen those before. So
They're priceless.
Oh, yeah.
Really, definitely.
Yep.
You know, it's my understanding that you are in the process of filming a proof of concept trailer for the movie.
yes.
Can you explain what that is?
Sure. A proof of concept trailer is a trailer that you film before a major production begins, and you try to you shoot certain scenes from the movie, and then splice them together, make them into a trailer, which is like a coming attractions trailer. But
Okay.
you use that to garner interest from people that may want to invest in the the project. So I wrote, the trailer has 7 scenes in it, and each scene is a different. It's kind of like a movie in itself, because I'm trying to tell a story in about 2.5 minutes
Exactly.
that would make people interested in wanting to back the movie. It's going to be very expensive to produce this movie because of the clothing we're going to have to use. Any period piece like this from the 1970s is very difficult to film. You're building sets to recreate what it looked like here, there, and everywhere. And the street scenes are very difficult. The streets have to be blocked off. The streets have to be filled with 1970s cars. And, it's just, it adds layers and layers of work, which costs a lot of money, and it's not a simple thing to do, to recreate a time and place that's not there anymore.
Now, who's involved in this trailer?
Well, you're helping out.
Well,
And
Yes.
Andy Morin, who owns a production company on Niagara Street in Buffalo, he's been absolutely the best person you could ever find to help us out with this. To backtrack a little bit, Terry read my book and contacted me and asked me, have I written a screenplay for it? And that's really what started the ball rolling with this, where I didn't know Terry. She called me and we met, and I gave a copy of the screenplay to her, and I can let you talk, and it kind of snowballed from there. So
Yeah, and like I said this before, I couldn't put the book down. I had to finish it. It was just amazing, and it kept my interest right from the very beginning to the end. Now, who is involved in the trailer? As far as how did you identify actors that you wanted to put into this trailer?
Okay. Well, after meeting with you, meeting with Andy, Andy asked me to write the trailer. So, again, I never have written a trailer before, but I knew the scenes in my head that I wanted to put in the trailer that I thought would gain, get the most attention, because I want to grab people's attention and make them wonder what this kid Nick is up to,
Exactly.
and be Nick's friend. But when you're writing little snidbits that are 15, 20 seconds, that's not as easy as you think it's going to be. It's like writing a 15-second commercial that you're going to remember. So I had to write 7 little commercials and string them all together to make them come out as something that's coherent enough that someone would say, yeah, I'd like to invest in that. Andy asked me to write the trailer. I wrote it. and sent it to him within 5 minutes. And he was amazed that I could do it. And I said, well, Andy, I've been thinking about this since you contacted me the first time, and I can do it. So he loved it. And then we set up another meeting with you, and I talked about the scenes I wanted to use, and everyone has just agreed on these scenes that I picked. And then we set off and started. I started filming them, and one thing that I wanted to mention on air was that I have contacted the city of Buffalo. The tango dancers, the neon sign that's on the corner of Bidwell and Elmwood, is a major part of what I wanted to do in both the movie and the trailer. And the sign was taken down about 7 or 8 years ago and completely refurbished and put back up on the building, and it was turned on for only a half hour, and then they pulled the plug on it, and it hasn't been lit up since then. And I'm trying to coax the city into turning it back on. I've talked with the councilman. I talked with the former mayor, and really want to use that to start the trailer and end the trailer. And I also want to start the movie with that tango dancer neon, because I think that is so Buffalo. It is so 1970s. That is one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and I just love it. And I want to get that sign lit back up again. And it's very funny. Every person that I've talked to that I told about this, they're all like, I love that thing. And I think the whole neighborhood would get behind it and love seeing that lit back up again. And, the sentimental old people like you and I would love to see it back on as soon as possible. So I've been working on that. That's the beginning and the end of the trailer. And the first scene that we filmed was when the main character, Nick, sees Stephanie for the first time, which happened at his cousin Ronnie's 8th grade graduation party. Okay. And it was a bit difficult finding a house that was the right house. We used a house on Richmond Avenue, made the house look and the party in the back look like it was 1976. We found getting the kids that were at the party dressed in the correct clothing. Matt at Fistful of Vintage on Grant Street, a great store if you like vintage clothing, helped us out immensely with clothes for the kids, gave them clothes to wear, and he made the shoot look like it was 1976. And I guess I haven't really talked about how we found the actors, because that was the first part of the question that you asked me. I went off on a tangent.
That's okay.
But once we decided we were going to film this, we needed a Nick, we needed a cousin Ronnie, and we needed I wanted another character named Jack. And we needed a Stephanie. And in my mind, Stephanie is the love interest of Nick, and in my mind, she's the most important character, because I don't think anybody will believe the movie unless they believe that whatever girl we picked was really Stephanie. Because everybody, it's very funny. The reactions I got from men and women who read the book, every guy, the first thing they asked me was, "Do you have a picture of Stephanie?" because they had read the book, and the book is about Nick and Stephanie, and so when they read the book, the guys were like using their imagination, and what did this girl look like? So probably every guy had a different idea in their mind what she looked like, and I never really ever told anybody what she looked like. I wanted people to use their imagination. So men asked me, well, what does this Stephanie girl look like? Do you have a picture of her? And then the reaction from the women that read the book was always, what a beautiful love story that was. And so they looked at it as a love story, and the guys looked at it from a different perspective, like, who is this girl, and why would this character chase after her for 5 years in the book, which is what happened in the book. So once we decided we had to get these actors together, I sat down with Andy, and he started showing me all these pictures of these models from Buffalo that want to be actresses. And I kept saying, no, that's not right. And in his mind, like, Stephanie was this beautiful model, but I didn't want that. I wanted the girl next door pretty, and it was kind of hard convincing him that this girl, like, I didn't want the most beautiful girl we could find, because that's just not what it was about. The story wasn't about that. Nick loved Stephanie because of what was inside her, not how beautiful she was. Right. It was a different kind of a story. And I know you understood that because we had multiple conversations with people that thought, like, that didn't get the true meaning of what the story was about.
That's right.
So we started out trying to find Stephanie first, and we weren't having any luck. And a friend of mine told me about a boy who was a student over at St. Joe's, and that he was interested in being in movies, and that he fit the bill because he had read the book. And again, in his mind, he had a picture of what he thought Ronnie looked like. So I got the kid's mom's telephone number, and we called, and he came to visit us, and you were with us when he walked in. Did we not know that was Ronnie? As soon as he walked in the room, his hair, everything about him, his personality, he was perfect, and we knew, okay, there's Ronnie. So we had Ronnie now, and we were looking for Jack, and we were also still looking for Nick, and then looking for, ultimately, Stephanie. So Nick tells us about a friend of his who had been in the movie Cabrini, and he had a speaking part, and he said, this friend of mine that I go to school with, he was in Cabrini. He's very Italian looking. And since Nick had read the book, he had a picture in his mind what he thought Jack looked like. So I said, okay, let's get Nick in, or let's get Jack in here. And his name was Gianni. He came in to see us, and again, as soon as he walked in the door, we said, "Yep, this kid, he's Jack."
Yep.
So now we have Ronnie and Jack, and we still haven't found Nick. So a couple of girls came in, and we talked with them, and they just, I don't know, I just didn't have the right feeling for them. And I don't know. I knew it wasn't the right person. So we continued looking for Nick. Nick turned out to be a friend of the two boys that we already had, who, again, was in some productions and speech classes at St. Joe's, but he had the right look, and he had this innocence about him that Nick has, and that's what everybody likes the Nick character because of his innocence. So when we met Landon for the first time, we were like, "Yep, that's Nick." So we then continued to look for for Stephanie, and another girl came in. We talked with her, and then she went to L.A. and got filmed in a series, and joined the Screen Actors Guild and all these other things. And all of a sudden, she priced herself right out of being able to do this. So we were then still without a Stephanie. And Nick tells us that he knew a girl that was in some local commercials and also in a lot of drama shows at school, and that he thought she would be a good Stephanie. So I said, okay, can you get me her mother's telephone number? So we called her, and as you remember, she came like at the end of August, and we were waiting outside the studio, sitting on a bench waiting for her to come. And when she got out of the car, Andy, you and I were sitting there, and she got out of the car, and the three of us looked at each other and we said, "That's Stephanie." And she came over, Ruby. She was dressed in 1970s clothes, and I started asking her, "Wow, that's really cool that you got dressed up and wanted to impress us by wearing the 1970s clothes." And she looked at me and she said, "No, this is the way I dress all the time, and this is the way all my friends dress also." So I couldn't believe it, and the more I talked to her, the more I knew she was the right girl for the trailer. And that's how we got all the kids together, and they kind of became friends. And then the kids, their friends wanted to get involved in it, so those were the extras that we used for the scene in the driveway where Nick sees Stephanie for the first time. The shot just turned out so great, and I have to tell you, it was very strange when I was watching all this happening and setting it up, and I was directing it with the help of Andy, of course. I mean, I just kind of set up where the movement was, and how the distance, and they were using drones, and there were 3 cameramen there, or 3 cameras being used. So I, after they shot that scene where Nick sees Stephanie for the first time, I had to walk out of the backyard, and I was out in front of the house, and I was like, this is so weird. I lived this. Then I wrote about it, and I just watched it happen again right in front of me, and it was surreal. I don't, I'm not claiming to be a movie maker, or I'm not even claiming to be an author. I wrote a story, but it was just the best feeling to see that come to life in front of me exactly the way it happened in 1976 in June, and it was just great. Our next scene that we filmed, we needed a bratty little sister, and I knew the girl that I wanted to do that. She's a little 10-year-old girl named Ainsley, and she's her mother is a friend of my daughter's, and she's been in some school plays, and she's very interested in acting and things like that. But she just was the perfect little bratty sister, and cool. The scene was similar to the first one, where we needed a driveway for Nick to walk up the driveway and go to the door and ring the doorbell when he's finally gotten up enough nerve to go out on a date with Stephanie. And the little sister comes to the door and just ruins the whole thing for him and gives him a hard time. And Ainsley was
typical.
perfect. Her line was, she looked at him, looked him up and down, and like, and then she screamed back to her family that it was only Nick at the door. And his reaction, and Landon did a great job with his reactions. Her facial expressions were absolutely perfect. They cracked everybody up. We were laughing out in the hallway, the driveway, and the people in the hallway that were filming were laughing also, and they're like, this scene is perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Well, tell us a little bit. We're running low on time now.
Oh, okay.
I can go on for another couple hours. Tell us a little bit about scouting out locations. Now, I was on one of those with
okay.
you, and we have an interesting moment.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit
sure.
about it?
Once we decided that we're going to push forward with this, we had to go and start finding suitable locations that we could do without having to remodel a building or so we started out at a friend of mine's tuxedo place on Hurdle Avenue, Carmen Bandinelli. Carmen and I have been friends for 50 years. And we went in and talked with him. His shop has not changed since he opened it in the early 80s. And, Terry and I walked in and we both said, oh my God, yes, we're using this place. And then we told him he was going to be the tuxedo salesman for the two scenes that we needed the tuxedo salesman. So that one went very, very easy. And, we laughed a ton when we walked in there, but that was perfect. So after that, we left and we went by my childhood home that I grew up in, which I've been in it since I moved. My parents moved out of there, and it's been completely remodeled on the inside. And we could not use the inside because it's very modern looking now, but from the outside, it looks the same. So I thought we could probably use it from the outside.
Okay.
So we went over there. That's on Bird Avenue, right by Richmond. And then the next place to go to was my grandmother's house on Fargo Avenue. So Terry and I pulled up in front of the house, and it was, like I said, that's my favorite place in the world. I don't, and it doesn't matter. I could be 80 years old, and that still would be a magical place for me. So Terry and I approached the house, and we were standing outside looking at it, and it's a huge old West Side house. And I'm looking on the porch next door, and next door to my grandmother's was a family, and I looked there was a little name tag on the porch, and it was the same family that lived there when my grandmother lived there.
Wow.
And my grandmother and my family sold the house in like 1977 or 1978.
Same.
And there was an old man sitting on the porch. And he's kind of looking at me because I'm looking at his house and I'm looking at my grandma's house. And he's giving me the, like, what are you doing look? So I walked up and I said, hey, Mr. Sabia. I said, hi, I'm Frank Marecello. My grandmother lived next door. And then he's looking at me, and he was a very old guy, and he goes, are you Frank's son? And I said, yes. So he said, come on up on the porch. So he goes, I grew up with your dad. Mm-hmm. And this guy was in his 90s sitting on the porch. So I told him what was going on, that I had written a book. And he's like, that's great. I said, hey, could we use the outside of your house for the film? And he's like, absolutely. And then I said, well, what's going on with my grandmother's house? And it's kind of a commune in there now where they rent out rooms, mm-hmm. and it's like a hostel. So he said, go knock on the door and ask for, I forget the guy's name. So I went over and knocked on the door, and I had my book in my hand, and here on the back of the book, right there, is a picture of my grandmother's house. So I used my book and walked in, or knocked on the door, and a girl came to the door, and I said, hi. I introduced myself. I introduced Terry. I said, I wrote this book. This was my grandmother's house, and the girl's just kind of looking at me. like giving me this look like, okay. And then I showed her the book and I said, look, see, here's the book and here's a picture of my grandmother's house that you're living in now. And after that, she was like, wow, that's really cool. So she said, do you want to see the house? And I said, I would love to see the house. So we walked in and the house was, let's just say it was very unkempt, and it really wasn't very clean in there. And I was thinking about how clean the house was when it was my grandmother's house. But in any event, I went through the entire house. I took Terry with me, and it was very emotional going in there for the first time. I mean, the last time I was in that house, I was 15 years old.
Wow.
And it's been almost 50 years. And walked into the dining room, and I looked for my grandmother's mantle, and the mantle was missing. It was just a hole, basically a hole in the wall. So someone had stolen the mantle out of there. That really, that was very upsetting to me. Then I went into the living room that seemed so gigantic when I was a kid, where all my uncles would sit around on folding chairs and talk. And the most emotional part of the whole thing was I walked over to a bay window that was on the side of the house where my grandmother kept her Christmas tree, and that's where she put her Christmas tree up. And she had one of those silver 1970s trees that spun around, and they had the color light that spun and turned at different colors. And I was standing there, and I got tears in my eyes because I thought I'm standing in the same spot I did when I was a kid, staring, and I actually could see my grandmother's tree there, and it was great and it was terrible all at the same time. I can't really describe it. They took me through the rest of the house, and the house was very changed from when my grandma lived there. And again, we talked with them, and they said that they were more than willing to give us an opportunity to film the outside of the house. We could never use the inside of the house because it was just so messed up in there. But using the outside of the house, and we'll have to find another house to shoot on the inside. But that was very. That was actually great looking back on it, that I got to go back into that house. And again, I guess they say you can never go back, right? But I did.
Those memories are there.
Right, but the memories were there, and I saw my aunts and uncles at the dining room table. I saw my grandma in the kitchen, and it was a great experience. After we left there, we went to another place on Connecticut Street, the Armory Tavern.
Yes.
And that's where my father had his 50th birthday party, which was in the book. And we went in there and had lunch, and the place has not changed, and we're 100% going to use that in the movie. It was exactly the way it was in my father's 50th birthday in 1979. I think the same bottles of liquor were behind up on the bar too. So I didn't order any drinks that day. I don't remember.
No.
I don't know. I said Terry wanted drinks, but I told her no, you might not want to drink any of that stuff. So yeah, but.
So what's left in completing the trailer?
Well, tomorrow we are going to be shooting at St. Joe's. There's one scene where Nick and his two friends, well, his cousin and his one friend, where Nick is going into a high school dance for the first time and experiencing disco. So we're going to recreate the three boys walking down the hallway, and as they walk into the gym, where all the high school dances were held in gyms in the 70s, and we will we're going to have a disco ball in there that's going to be spinning and create as best we can a 1970s high school dance. I think that's going to be it's going to be very touching, and you're going to get to see again how shy Nick is, and that's what I want the trailer has to show the contrast of Nick being so shy and hesitant to want to change, and how Stephanie is the complete opposite of him, and that's probably why they were attracted to each other so much in the story. So that's going to be going on tomorrow at St. Joe's. We also filmed another scene at Delaware Park, right by the Macy Casino, and it was just a simple thing of Nick and Stephanie talking, and this is later in their relationship when now they're in college, so we had to kind of change their look a little bit. And in both the book and the screenplay, Nick and Stephanie go their separate ways when they go into college, and then something brings them back together when they're like 20 years old after they haven't seen each other for a couple of years. And again, we filmed it. It was Landon was so innocent looking, and Ruby was so just, you could just sense that she has it, and it was when it was filmed, it just it looked amazing with the water in the background, and we had to deal with a few crazy people walking through the cameras while we were filming. That was pretty interesting, to say the least. That people would just walk right through while we were filming, riding their bikes through. I'm learning a lot about this. I'm just gonna keep repeating. I am not a filmmaker. I'm just making
you're doing a great job.
Well, I just have these pictures in my mind and getting them onto film and letting them come alive. It's the greatest feeling of just. It's just amazing. Like if I had my life to live over again, I think I would have gotten involved in movies, because it's just. And I would have written more books. I would have done all sorts of. I think I would have changed my my whole career. And I love being a teacher, but and there's something about seeing your ideas on paper come to life.
Yeah. But not only your ideas, you lived it.
Right.
That's
right.
I mean, most directors, they have these scripts and they have to put everything together to create this film. You actually lived this, and the feeling you must get inside when you see these scenes come to life.
Right. When I first wrote the book, I got a letter in the mail from a very good friend of mine's mother, and she's pushing 90 years old. She wrote me a handwritten letter. And she told me, because I mentioned their family name, like I couldn't use her son's name, real name. He's in the story, but I had to change his name. But there's one section in the book where I wrote, the other people that lived on my block, and I named all the families that lived on my block, because I really wanted to get them in there. And I mentioned her name, and she just wrote about, your parents were lovely people. And the way you wrote about how much you loved your grandmother was just so touching. And I kept the letter. It's on my desk. And whenever I want to, I'm feeling like I need a little boost here, I look at it and I said, okay, I've affected a few people. And if you read the reviews on Amazon, people that lived in Australia are writing about the book and how it touched them, and that's the best feeling you could possibly have.
Of course it is. Of
yeah.
course it is. Well, we're getting down to the wire here, and I was hoping you come back again and talk about the progress that's working, that's moving on with the film, and you're almost finished with the trailer, and then you're going to start probably
We got to get the city of Buffalo to get that
them
neon sign on so we can finish the trailer.
Yes, definitely.
Put it together, and I'd really love to start filming in August, so we can have summer and then the change of season into fall and then into winter. So that's our hope.
Well, This is Think Twice Radio, and I'm Terry Bronstein, talking proud with Talk About Everything with Terry. And I just want to say thank you for being our guest tonight. And everything was so interesting. I want to read the book again because I just want to sit down and enjoy it one more time over. And everybody be safe, happy, and enjoy life to the fullest. Thank you.